Good morning. So I was told at the beginning of this that I have about 7 minutes to tell everybody what I wanted to say. But those of you that have ever sat through a debrief with me, you know that's not going to happen. So my name is Adrian Drelles. I am Officer Talley's direct supervisor. And for the last 10 years, I have been his friend. I am humbled and I am honored to be speaking on behalf of Eric, Eric's family, and the Boulder Police Department. I was asked to say a few words about him as a police officer and as his friend. However, I'm going to put that off for a few minutes so I can talk about other people first. Why? Because that's the kind of person that Eric was. He would make sure that others were recognized before himself. First, I would like to say to Leah, I am so truly sorry for your loss. You were the love of Eric's life, and you made him a better person. Even if he did not tell you, he made sure that everybody else knew. You were his rock. You were what kept him grounded every day. And your strength and your kindness in the face of adversity has changed my life. To the kids, all 7 of you, hold your heads high. I see your dad's compassion and kindness in each of you. Be proud of your father. He is a hero. He lived his life through God to be a role model for you. Your father is a real-life example of the good in this world, and it shows in your smile and your laughter. Your father was proud of each of you. He never stopped talking about you. And know that your police family will always be here to support and love you. And to Eric's parents, as a parent, I cannot imagine your grief. Be proud of the man you raised. He made this a better world. He is a reflection of how amazing you are as parents. And know he died living his life to the fullest and doing what he was born to do, helping others. And next, I would like to recognize the other 9 victims and their families. It is difficult to find meaning in this devastating loss, and we are all struggling to make sense of it. You are not alone. The entire country is behind you. I give you my solemn promise that the men and women of the Boulder Police Department and our partners in law enforcement will continue to work around the clock to bring you justice. We are in this together. We stand side by side and we grieve with you. We will forever share a bond forged in tragedy, but healed by compassion and the drive to carry on, finding the good in this world. And I want to recognize my brothers and sisters of the Boulder Police Department. We are family. You have pulled together like never before. Some of you, along with Eric, put your own lives on the line to save people of our community. You were brave. I will never stop reliving the image of watching you make entry into a situation that I knew was incredibly dangerous. I knew you were doing your job and you performed amazingly. I am so proud of all of you. And I am honored to know that you were with Eric when he fell. The 2 of the officers that were side by side with Eric at his last moments drove Eric's patrol car in the procession today. And often overlooked, but equally important, is that voice on the other end of the phone and the other end of the radio. Our dispatchers are the calm in the storm. All of you working together that day saved lives. So please, take a second to recognize all the people that responded to the call that day. To the citizens of the city of Boulder, know our hearts ache with you. We are your neighbors. We are your friends. We are members of your community. We will continue to protect the city of Boulder with the intent of keeping our community safe. This room is packed full of police officers, firefighters, paramedics, dispatchers, members of the church, counselors, and others who serve our community. On the day in question, hundreds of you dropped what you were doing, jumped into your cars, and responded to a city that is not yours to answer a call for help. During the intense moments of that event, I remember looking out as wave after wave of first responders ran to the scene to help. Most of you do not even know Eric. However, he is still your brother. He is bonded by the perils of the job. When we lose one, we all suffer. And it is because of people like you that I keep my head held high and hope that this world can be a better place. I would also like to say a special thank you to the Westminster SWAT team, the Boulder Fire Department, and to Sergeant Miller with the Louisville PD for the kind gesture that you showed Eric that day. And last, but certainly not least, there is a large group of our husbands, wives, kids, and other family members in this room, each of whom forego the assurance that the person they love will come home at the end of the day in order to make this world a better place. You are what gives us strength and drives us forward. Thank you. All right, now let's talk about Officer Talley. To describe Eric is to describe a man of great character. Let me quote Master Sergeant Mark Barber of the U.S. Air Force. Someone once said that people of genius are admired, people of wealth are envied, and people of power are feared. But only people of character are trusted. Without character, you cannot be trusted. And if you cannot be trusted, you cannot lead. The word character comes from the Greeks, meaning to make a mark. Your character is your mark on this world. Look around this room. You are all here for Eric. I would say he has left his mark, but not because of how he died, but because of how he lived. I could stand up here all day and tell you how wonderful he is, but that is not my style, nor is it his. If he were here and I stood up and talked about how perfect he was, he would be the first person standing at the back of the room yelling at me to get off the stage. As his supervisor, I can easily describe Eric. He was a pain in my butt. Eric has two speeds at work, talkaholic and honey badger. Eric was either talking everyone's ear off or hard charging, and sometimes he was able to do both at the same time. Eric was the kind of guy that would respond to a call, even if he knew he was not needed, just to offer his help or opinion. He would then call to tell me about it almost every single time. There are times as a supervisor where you were standing up in front of your team debriefing a call, discussing some topic, or just discussing an issue. And you ask your people for a response or an opinion, and you get nothing but silence and a blank stare. Every supervisor in this room knows what I'm talking about. I can tell you that with Eric on my team, I have not gotten to experience that. Eric always has something positive to contribute. I was telling Leah and the kids a story about Eric the other day. Eric was the kind of guy who was so vibrant and enthusiastic about life and the job, he wanted to share it with the world. That included me. I brought Eric into my office a few weeks ago to tell him that I was placing a restriction on his phone calls to me. From this point forward, he was only allowed to call me 10 times a shift. That's once an hour. I know what you were thinking. 10 times? That's a lot. With Eric, 10 phone calls is just a warm-up. Eric said he understood, and he walked out of my office. 5 minutes later, my phone rings. It's Eric letting me know he's going pee. That is the kind of guy that Eric was. His heart was so big, he wanted to share it with the world. But he had an unbelievable sense of humor and was always up for a good practical joke. Eric contributed a lot to the Boulder Police Department. Besides being on patrol, he was one of our defensive tactics instructors. He was a member of our Explorer Post, and he was a founding member of our drone program. In addition, the Boulder Police Department has a group of training instructors that specialize in training officer survival type training. I have been one of our officer survival instructors for many years. Eric recently told me that he was interested in possibly pursuing a position with the team and asked if I could mentor him. Of course, I said yes. One of the tasks asked of my team is to help teach new officers who are going through our in-house academy. During one of our last training days with the trainees, we scheduled it so Eric could attend. The training day consisted of numerous scenarios, each ending with a tactical debrief of the call. I told Eric I wanted him to stick with me as I oversaw the scenarios and to watch and learn as I debriefed it with the trainees. Eric watched and listened to the first one. On scenario number 2, as I started to get the first words out of my mouth, Eric cut me off and jumped right into the debrief. He hit every point that I had planned to talk about and then some. I'm not going to lie. I remember pouting a little bit and thinking to myself, well, I guess I'm not needed. Apparently, the student had outdone the teacher after one scenario. When the student outdoes the teacher, it's usually because of one of two reasons. One, the teacher is really bad at what they're teaching. Or two, the student is that good at what they do. Clearly, I'm going to attribute it to number 2. That's exactly how Eric was. When he wanted to learn something, he watched for a second, then he threw himself into it completely. I could stand up here and tell you all day long about his character and who he was. I could tell you he had a successful career, and at the age of 41 decided to change careers to help others. But you guys already know this. Instead of talking about all the great things Eric did, I will show you some examples. I would like to introduce you to 2 of Eric's children, Paul, his youngest son, and Stephen, his teenage son. On one particular day, a few months back, Paul decided to put a quarter into his mouth. Unfortunately, he swallowed the quarter and started to choke. Stephen, recognizing that something was wrong, jumped into action. He immediately began a Heimlich maneuver and was able to dislodge the quarter, saving his brother's life. At even a young age, Stephen recognized danger, he stayed calm, and he acted to save a life. He was honored by our police department for his action that day. Eric's kids are a direct reflection of him. His kids followed their dad's example to help others. His kids are a living legacy of Eric's impact on this world. On the day of the incident, after it was over, I immediately jumped into a car with my chief, my deputy chief, and Ashley, one of our chaplains. We drove to Eric's house to break the news to Leah and the family. I remember it being the longest, most emotional car ride of my life. I was shaking as we pulled up to the house. I had no idea how I was going to comfort Leah and the kids, but something unexpected happened. Eric's kids jumped into action, started making phone calls, and instead, they gave me comfort. In the darkest hour of their life, they made sure that we were okay. The lessons Eric taught his children is to serve others before yourself, exactly as he lived his life. Eric was very careful about keeping the work and home relationships separate. He was careful about what he told the family about his job. That was his way of protecting the family. Leah, no, it was not that way at the police department. You and the family were everything to him. And of course, he shared a lot of stories. And every Father's Day, when he could not be home with his own father, he and the family would come to the police department and put on a barbecue for all those who couldn't be home with their families. It was his way of honoring his father and giving back to the police department. Eric lived his life to help other people. He found the joy in the little things and was not afraid to laugh at himself. He was the kind of person to give you the shirt off his back, even if he had to borrow it from someone else first. Eric would give his all, and give his all he did. On March 22nd, 2021, Officer Eric Talley answered a call for help in which he knew people were dying. He was the first officer on scene and courageously did what he had been trained to do. He saved lives. While the investigation is ongoing, I can tell you that many people were pulled out of the building alive after it was all over. From the time that Eric entered the store and confronted the suspect No other civilian was hurt. Let us not grieve Eric's death. Let us celebrate his life. That is what he would have wanted. Eric died a hero, giving his all to save others. He did not die in vain, and he did not die alone. He was with his brothers and sisters in blue. I will leave you with some final words as written by L.R. Nost. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, and unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Eric, I am honored to have worked by your side. You are a great officer, friend, husband, and father. I know you are looking down on us, probably rolling your eyes as I speak, but I know we will see you again someday. Until then, we have your back, and we will continue the work where you left off. We miss you. Thank you.